Hey everybody, welcome back to Northernlion plays Finalizing AFTERBIRTH Plus. 17 wins in a row. We're feeling fairly locked in. Good start. We've had great damage on our starts recently. This is thanks to Curved Horn right now. 6J, EJ, XA4M. But we also got a big bonus just in terms of our rate of fire. Go ahead. Okay. My mistake. How about one of these? Oh, baby. Head of the Keeper is free money, right? Like, there's Eye of Greed shoots your pennies for damage, which is normally still pretty good, I think, but, oh my god, it's one of those days, dude, it's one of those days. An early Ipecac, forget all the minutia I was about to bore you with. Here we are. So and this is, you know, irritating to some people, but it's worth saying, I think. We will not be using Clicker at all, because Clicker has the ability to make you lose your item. You know, I don't think you have a guarantee to lose an item every time. Oh, come on. Every time you use Clicker, but you definitely have, like, a chance, which is something that I'm really unwilling to play around with right now. Based simply on the virtue of, you know, Ipecac being, like, without a doubt, one of the best items in the game. Like, whenever somebody tells me Ipecac is, like, it's good, but, I'm like, well, there is a genuine but the but is, like, so small as to render the point inert in the first place, I think. There we go. We gotta stand still there. No thank you. No thank you. Like, yeah, if you got the, like, exact worst possible combination of items for Ipecac, like my reflection, for example, your life's gonna be rough, you know? They never did like Mama's homemade dress. Papa's blanket wasn't big enough. And me, I'm standing at the side of the road. Sorry, that was Tangled Up in Blue by Bob Dylan. I mean, if we're talking Bob Dylan albums, look, I understand Highway 61 Revisited. I understand Blonde on Blonde. I even understand, you know, like Modern Times. You know, the albums that he's come out with, you know, since he's been on the older side. You know, I mean, the man is like 90. But I'm a big fan of Blood on the Tracks. I think Blood on the Tracks has got to be my favorite at the end of the day. But I will say the Bob Dylan movie that came out last year, Bob Dylan and the Rolling Thunder Review. If you haven't seen it, it's on Netflix. Highly recommend it. It's a great musical mock/documentary. Would highly recommend. I found myself grossly engaged. I think that was a year ago. I don't know. At this point, time has lost a lot of meaning. It definitely was not this year, because I watched it in a different office. But I don't know. It may have been 7 years ago, for all I know. You've been dead for 4 years. Okay, thanks for the support here. This one's got a very, very good outlook right now. And I know you might find yourself saying something like, NL, stop being a coward and use Clicker. There is, I don't necessarily think, I don't necessarily think of Clicker as a terrible item. However, I do think it's one of those items where, like, it has a potential, like, I don't know game design, okay? And I don't say that, like, just to absolve myself of what I'm about to say. Oh, I'll take that. That's explosion immunity, right? Let's go. I don't say that just to absolve myself of, like, well, therefore, my opinion can't be wrong. But I'm like, the way I see it, maybe you look at Clicker, and you go, like, oh, it's so good, because it can give you, like, Dark Judas, that, you know, we need to put a negative. Well, the negative is that you lose a potential item every time you press the button. The negative is way too big for the positive to make it usable in anything but the most dire of circumstances. So as a result, you know, what do I think? I think it's balanced without causing you to lose an item, because it already has a negative, and the negative is that it's an active item that requires, you know, taking up the space of your active slot, which prevents you from getting something else. That's my game design philosophy from an ignorant perspective on this one. You may agree, you may disagree. I'm not trying to, you know, I mean, at this point in my life, I should stop bringing up stuff like this, because quite honestly, I don't have the patience or time to argue about it. But then again, this is kind of an opportunity for me to give my unfiltered opinion, or at least filtered a little bit less. which is nice. So there it is. Today is Thursday. We're back in that like one Isaac recording a day sort of situation right now, just due to the way. That makes sense. Due to the way time's sort of shaken out. Been a little strapped, not in a bad way. You know, it's a quality problem to have, as I always say, but being able to fit in one Isaac a day, I look at it as like, this is my, let's not get too heady. You know, I don't want to say like it's my confession booth or something, but it's really like, I don't feel right with a day of recording, or at least like a week of recording, unless there's at least a little Isaac involved. Wouldn't mind coming in here. Ooh. Honestly, don't hit me. I think we go for the long-term play here, which is buying the jumper cables. And then we're pretty much set. We were all ready, pretty much set, but now we're like very much set. Just helps you feel balanced, you know? And like some people, maybe you got like a show you watch every day and you look forward to it. And if you don't finish that, if you don't get to watch that show, you're like, oh, the day's like a little, you know, it doesn't feel right. Not necessarily a bad day, but it's the kind of day where you're like, you know, my routine was busted. I'm a routine guy, and I know that my routine is, well, like as Scott Stapp said, I just heard the news today. Seems my life is gonna change. But we got a little time before that comes to pass. As mentioned yesterday, you know, lots of baby stuff on the go. It's a good thing to be prepared. Ooh, thank you. And I'm not talking about the song that they cut from the 2019 version of The Lion King. We talked yet about Disney Plus? Because I feel like I have a lot of opinions on the Disney Plus Mulan release. I've previously... I'm very wary because I could pretty easily be called a hypocrite, I think, for the way that I've approached this in the past. But I've been saying things like, you know, if they could release movies digitally for rental or for purchase, because I don't really care. Like, for the most, I understand that, like, a purchase should be more than a rental. A rental should be less than a purchase, because you don't have access to it forever. But the number of movies I watch more than once is very low, which is why I'm kind of a rental guy in the first place, even in a digital context. I think a lot of people get themselves, like, psyched out when they go to purchase a movie. They go, well, like, it's $10 to rent, but it's $15 to buy. What if From Hell, starring Heather Graham, is my favorite movie of all time? I'll regret constantly that I could have possibly owned it rather than, you know, merely had possession of it for it. You know, I think for the most part, the rental is... I would hazard to guess the average person watches the average movie that they see 1.05 times. Which is to say... 1 in 20 movies they see more than once. Willfully, at least. But anyway, hold on, let me out of here. You might be the exception, by the way. But don't hit me with the, I've seen Kimi no Na wa so many times. Yeah, of course, like the good ones are the exception to the rule. But I do have strong opinions, you know. Because I've been waiting for like a major Hollywood release to actually buck the trend. And, you know, Trolls World Tour I'll allow, but it's kind of not aimed at my demo right now. No, this is good. This is good. I've been saying things like, you know, if you released, even for rental, a brand new movie for the price of what it would cost to get a ticket or two to see it in the theaters, I would probably be okay with it. But something about the Mulan release rubs me the wrong way. Like, $30 for the rental. I think if you look at it, like... optically, I think people are focusing on the wrong thing when they say, like, $30 is too much. That might seem out of touch, but I look at it more like, you know, if we were to go see the movie at the theater, the tickets alone would be $30. I'm not taking that lard, by the way. And then when you factor in, like, you know, concessions or, you know, having to pay for parking or, you know, just the not being able to watch it from the comfort of my own home, you know, having to pay a comfort tax, I suppose, not being able to pause it and go to the bathroom, etc., etc. Now, you might be on the flip side of that. You might be like, yeah, but I'm not even getting, like, the big screen and the Dolby Atmos. It depends how much that means to you. I'll admit $30 is kind of like, it's a high number, don't get me wrong. But what really rubs me the wrong way is having to have the subscription and pay $30. Like, that's a heck of a double dip. We have Disney Plus, but like just the fact that you have to have it and then also give them the 30 on top is like, I get that we're creating like a new normal somewhere down the line because we don't know what's going on with the movie theaters and the virus, but it's a little much. I know $30 is like, it's not a pittance for sure, but I think of it almost more like, you know, it's like a pay-per-view fight or something like that. You know, some people will pay like $40, and by people I mean like one person out of 100, but they'll pay $40 for UFC to watch like Brock Lesnar, you know, cut somebody's windpipe in 10 seconds, but like $30 for a movie optically looks a little worse for sure. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I kind of like, I mean, I'm not applauding Disney's creativity. Let's not get like ridiculous. But I at least, you know, I think it's interesting, and it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out. But I will say, I do expect it to be kind of a wet fart domestically on release. Which is, I think, a bold claim. Because Aladdin made like a bajillion dollars, and The Lion King made like a bajillion times 1.25. Maybe it actually made double now that I think of it. I'm trying to remember. Time has been a little blurry in 2020 and 2019, but I don't know. I just think a lot of the audience is gonna hit him with a fat no on this one, just because it seems very audacious. I understand. I mean, the thing is, and let's talk about like it's a hypothetical world, right? If a new Marvel movie released on Disney Plus, which I already own, and they were like, it's gonna be $30 to rent opening night, I'd be like, yeah, I'll probably do it. You know, we're gonna go see it anyway. To be able to do it in the comfort of our own home, and it will actually, weirdly enough, despite being expensive, it'll save us money. Sure, I'd probably consider it. But for Mulan, I think I have the privilege of being like, it's not really my cup of tea, you know what I mean? Anyway, moving on. It's news. It's news that's worth talking about. Mostly because there's very little else. Excuse me. Could you excuse me, please? I'm trying not to get hit here. This run is in the books. Even if it might not look like it yet, we're running down the clock on this one. Not in a way like, oh, I can't wait till it's over. But just in the way that, like, it's set in stone that this one's gonna be completely fine. I'm trying to think of, like, what could hamper this run so we could think of what we need to do. Honestly, the only thing I would say right now, we have explosions and explosion immunity. So, like, it's an unbelievable setup for the time being. The only thing I would say secondary to that is, I wouldn't mind having it tied to Mom's knife. And that's, like, a pretty big ask. I don't know, at this point, I'm like, does 2 damage really matter that much? I feel like it shouldn't have to. Anyway, apart from that, what's going on? Not that much. Kate and I did watch a show on Netflix last night about wellness. A lot of... pardon me? It was called Unwell, but the show was about the subject of the wellness industry. There's been... I think there might have been, like, a previous series. Like, I remember watching a couple of episodes about people who had, like, chronic illness that they couldn't diagnose. It was interesting for sure, but I just kind of, like, washed out of it. And then this season, they went the full spectacle route. And I think I'm more invested. Because, like, one episode was about Tantra, or Tantra. Which I won't get into, but you can get into if you want. Oh, what you got there? A little banana bread?
No, it's custard.
A little custard cake, thank you. But then, like, the next episode was about a bodybuilder who solicits and drinks human breast milk as a performance-enhancing supplement. And I was like, there's some great moments. Like, I hate to throw my... Well, it's not really throwing my wife under the bus. If anything, it's putting her up on a pedestal. But she burned one of the people in the show so badly, I think it warrants mentioning. There was a woman who has a hormonal issue where she basically, like, and this is kind of a gross subject, so I apologize, but she hyperlactates, so she produces like a lot of breast milk. And by the way, if you hate hearing the expression breast milk, just get over it. Breast milk, breast milk, breast milk. It's just two words put together. You know, the fragility should not be there yet. Now, I said something like, oh, imagine putting a nail under your toe and then kicking a door as hard as you can. You'd be like, ooh, I cringe. But come on. Two words in the human language, or sorry, in the English language, put together like that, get over it. That's my advice. But anyway, so she has been producing her own supply for a long time. But she took it a step further than that. Like, her kids were still consuming it even though they were like 5 years old, which is definitely late by, you know, Western standards. But then they did go to like Mongolia, and people in Mongolia were like, I breastfed my son till he was like 8. And then as soon as she said that, like, her son just tried to cover his face from the camera. I guess to be like, Mom, you know, I might go to school overseas. I can't have people finding this. Anyway. But the one that got me was the husband. And the husband was like, yeah, she's been doing it for a long time. Maybe she should stop, but if she does it for like 4 or 5 more years, I don't know how long I can go on supporting her. But the kicker is that the dude for breakfast made scrambled eggs, and instead of putting in, you know, cow's milk, he put in his wife's breast milk. And Kate was like, you don't know how long you can go on supporting this, but you're using her milk to, you know, as an everyday cooking ingredient. I'm starting to think that you might be more invested than you actually are letting on. It was wild to me. The show is like almost always, at least in the episodes that I've seen, it's almost always the same. It's a bunch of people. Like I'll just put it this way. The words Facebook are uttered at least 5 times per episode. So I had something happen to me, and I didn't really know what to do with it. So I turned to, and everyone's like, doctor. You went to the doctor, you said hello to the doctor, and the doctor said, what? Don't do that. Nope. I turned to Facebook, and then that's where it all starts to go a little bit off the rails. Anyway. I don't know. But then there was, and again, I'm not trying to peddle pseudoscience. There was a guy on the show, and in fact, like, if you think that this is peddling pseudoscience, I apologize to you, because, you know, I do have a bachelor's of science in a science. There's not a high degree of praise for, you know, being an expert in a scientific discipline, but I at least understand, you know, that anecdotes are not the singular form of data. And in fact, the singular form of data is datum, in case you thought I wasn't for real. But you know, I understand how the scientific method works, and, you know, sample sizes and things being statistically significant. But there was an interesting anecdotal story about this guy who had, like, prostate cancer, and then he read an article in Discover magazine about how, like, there's components in human breast milk that may cannibalize cancer cells. So he started drinking it on the sly, and it actually, it went so well for him, he managed to find doctors who would actually give him a prescription, and then he goes to, like, the human milk bank and he gets his medicine, which is kind of, you know, I have no idea whether or not that, you know, he's just an anomaly, or if it's something that, you know, I mean, either way, it warrants more observation, let's put it that way. I don't want to give anybody a false sense of hope that, like, you know, that's a cure-all. But it was interesting to see for sure. But then the one dude who was just like, I want to be a bodybuilder, so I'm drinking it, I was like, oh man. You're a little bit more dedicated than I am, I think. I don't even want to take fish oil, because I'm like, oh, it tastes fishy when I burp. This guy's waking up at 4:45 in the a.m., slamming a protein shake mixed with breast milk that he bought off of Facebook Marketplace. You know, some people, you know, when they say some people just want it more, I think that's a great example. Anyway, I'm eager to see more more of what this show's got going on. I mentioned we were in the Netflix purgatory. Not any longer. Got a whole new batch of stuff to watch. I will say though, it sounds like again, anti-science. I'm like extremely pro-science. My parents even paid the Canadian government for the privilege of me getting a piece of paper that says I am. That's not braggadocious. If anything, it's a mark of shame that I didn't pay for it myself, but I'm not going to sit here and be like, I put myself through college. No, I was put through college, and, you know, there's no point in denying it. But it's interesting to hear, like, the dissenting opinions, I guess, if that makes sense. Because obviously, like, the doctor gets on there and is like, I can't in good conscience recommend that you're buying, you know, human breast milk on the Facebook marketplace. Seems pretty responsible of her to have that opinion, so I very, especially because it's based on data. And they did like a study of some of the suppliers, and they found out like it's bacteria ridden, and not just with the good stuff. But then also secondarily, some people were just selling cow's milk as human milk, which is hilarious to me. I don't want to blame the victim in many circumstances. But I think if you try to buy human milk on Facebook Marketplace and somebody sells you 2%, you kind of... I'm not going to say you got what you deserve. But you know, you kind of got to be on the lookout, I suppose. It's like, you know, you play silly games, you win silly prizes. You know what I mean? But it was interesting to hear otherwise, you know, sensible people be like, I tried it, I can't really explain it, I can't really recommend it to other people, but it worked for me. You can see how these things become kind of, you can see how they take off, right? Because I think a lot of people would watch this episode and be, in their head, they would be like, breast milk cures prostate cancer, or maybe like all cancer, and then, you know, that might kickstart its own kind of irresponsible and ignorant anti-intellectual chain reaction on Facebook. But anyway, it's an interesting show for sure. It's less of a study of wellness. I think it's more of an analysis of, you know, human brain's willingness to believe in things that are comforting, I suppose. I don't know. Still working it through. We'll see how we feel by the end of it. I don't know what the other episodes were. There's one on essential oils for sure. I don't know if it's just because, like, my generation no longer likes using Facebook, but I feel like I do still have it. And I check it now and then for, like, I don't know. Just because it's part of the internet muscle memory, where I type in, like, you know, www.t, www.u, and it just kind of autofills. I haven't posted anything on it in, like, a decade. But every once in a while, I'll still be like, let's see. Oh, thanks, Grandma. You know? But I've largely been spared of high school classmates getting deeply involved in multi-level marketing. I'm thankful for that. There are some times where it's like it gives you a friend's suggestion, and you're like, hey, this person's friends with everybody. That was just a bad move there. This person's friends with everybody that you went to high school with, and they're like CEO at company. And I'm like, whoa, CEO at company. And then I like look at the company, and I'm like, oh, you're not CEO. You like, oh, I get it. You quote unquote own your own business. You're an independent consultant at, you know, Leggings Incorporated. I understand. I mean, in some ways, I wouldn't say Twitch is multi-level marketing, but I understand that independent contractor lifestyle. You know, there's a big difference if you say, like, I'm a streamer at Twitch, you know? You could be Shroud, as of the time of this recording. You could be Ninja. You could be me. Or you could be, like, somebody who just started streaming 2 days ago. So it's hard to... It's a weird flex, let's put it that way. Okay, I think I'm happy with this. I don't know, maybe not. I think the beam is going to make bosses faster to kill. It's not like our damage was bad. Our damage was actually, like, amazing. But this should be, I don't know. Isn't Brimstone Ipecac, you pay, like, a heavy price in terms of rate of fire, but you kind of make up for it with sustained damage. We must do away with insane damage that want to threaten and destroy the... you know that classic internet meme? Maybe yes, maybe no. How is Babby formed? I'm still coming to terms with the fact that some of these internet memes I reference are like literally approaching 20 years old now. Like, I heard someone, well, I read it on the internet, someone described a meme as ancient, and I went like, wow. Like, I guess in my head, I just never conceived of a day where, like, a rage comic would be perceived as ancient. But it's like when you're a teenager, ancient is like 10 years ago, right? Like, I started high school in 2002. At that point, Nirvana was an ancient band. Nowadays, it's weird, because as I've gotten older, somehow they've become contemporary. It's the, you know, it's a riff on that old Mark Twain quote about how, like, when I was 14, I was amazed at how stupid my parents were. Then when I was 25, I realized it's amazing how much they've learned in just a few years. You know what? I'll be stupid. Let's try this. I didn't know if our rate of fire could get any worse anyway, so I think it actually worked out pretty nicely. Oh, baby. I think it works the same for memes, but just like 10 times faster. Like on the internet, an ancient meme is a meme that you heard 2 days ago. And then you're like, I've already seen the 9th order memes on memes. I've already seen the SpongeBob version of this meme. I've already seen the Fall Guys version of this meme. I desire fresh memes. Looks like memes are back on the menu, boys. Worth it. Anyway, this run, I gotta tell you, it was a perfect, like, mid-afternoon run for me. Very, very easy. Very, very solid. And, you can't hurt me. You basically, you just can't hurt me. Look at that. That's gonna be, I think that's 18 wins in a row, so we're building up, you know, quietly. Nice little streak again. For now, thanks for watching. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. If you did, click the like button. Helps out a great deal. Of course, subscribe if you want to see more in the future. For now, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. See you.